The point of order is withdrawn. The chair recognizes Ms. Goodwin to lay out her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment is pretty simple. It just would allow marching band to count towards the PE credit, and it just spells it out to make sure it's absolutely clear that it would count towards the PE credit. So imagine someone who's involved in marching band. Friday night football games are the beating heart of small towns across the Lone Star State. They're part of our identity and culture. Going to your first high school football game without your parents is a rite of passage for many Texas teens. Friday night football games bring communities together and are a reminder that even when screens dominate our world, nothing beats a Texas sunset set against a football field. But we all know football season begins long before Friday night football games. Most teams begin practicing twice a day in late July or early August, but they aren't the only ones preparing for the upcoming football season. Students who play in their school's marching band can often be seen practicing their routine in the stadium parking lot. But playing the halftime show at the games on Friday is only a part of what the marching band is preparing for. Most bands spend much of their time preparing to compete in UIL competitions across the state. To be successful, students have to put in countless hours learning their instruments and rehearsing their steps. This is why many marching band programs begin in the middle of summer and might involve weeks of 9 to 12-hour days. During the school year, many bands practice every day after school for at least 2 hours. Given the physical demands of marching bands, it makes sense that studies have shown that participation in marching band can improve cardiorespiratory fitness. Marching band is a serious blend of music, performance art, and athletics, and should be allowed to count towards a PE exemption. Move adoption.
Chair recognizes Ms. Hull to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I appreciate what Representative Goodwin is doing. Most school districts already allow marching band. Under current law, dance and music that is taught by a certified PE teacher already counts toward PE and can count toward both the PE and fine arts TEKS. So this is not necessary to add this to this bill. Again, I appreciate what she's doing, but it's just unnecessary, so I move to table.
Chair recognizes Ms. Goodwin to close on her amendment.
So I recognize that it is possible that marching band might be counted as PE, but this just spells it out in writing, makes it extremely clear that it would be allowed to go towards a PE credit. And with that, I move adoption.
Ms. Goodwin sends up an amendment. Ms. Hull moves to table. The question is on the motion to table the amendment. If you're in favor of the amendment, vote no on the motion to table. If you are opposed to the amendment, vote yes on the motion to table. Record vote has been requested. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Ms. Hull voting aye. Show Ms. Goodwin voting nay. Show Ms. Leo Wilson voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 71 ayes and 47 nays, the motion to table prevails. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Flores.
Chair recognizes Ms. Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, a common theme of this session has been about a parent's exclusive right to decide what their children read, believe, and think. If you voted to support parents' rights, then this amendment is for you. Currently, SB 25, I guess it's CSSB 25, allows students who participate in private club sports to receive an exemption from the additional PE credit requirements. That means that students who can afford to participate in a private club or league sport will have time in their schedule to take up to 2 additional courses. This creates an unfair academic advantage for the group of students who already have an athletic advantage because of their ability to participate in a private sport. All my amendment does is say that if a parent believes that their child gets enough physical activity outside of school day by participating in other non-private league or club-related activities, then they should be allowed to request the same exemption for their child and give their child the same academic advantage as other students. Members, let's be honest. Private sports leagues and clubs can be expensive and time-consuming to participate in. For parents struggling to make ends meet or who simply can't take the time off from work, private club sports are not within the realm of possibility for their kids. However, this does not mean that their children are not athletic or active outside of school. If you were to leave right now and drive down the street to a park in East Austin, I guarantee you'll find a group of sweaty kids running around playing soccer, basketball, or football. You'll also see plenty of kids on bikes or jogging around the track. Just because kids are not paying hundreds of dollars to play their chosen sport does not mean that they are not getting enough exercise outside of school. If parents have the exclusive right to, as Representative Patterson and many others have said, choose what their child reads and learns, then they should also be able to decide if their child needs to spend an additional year taking PE when they could be taking another class that would be better serve their academic career. Not every famous athlete had the resources to participate in a private club or league when they were growing up, but that didn't mean that they didn't have the talent or skill necessary to compete. Members, let's even the playing field and allow parents to decide. Move adoption.
Chair recognizes Ms. Hull to speak in opposition to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, and while I appreciate what Representative Flores is doing, and especially an amendment about an exemption form, super great, but this bill extends the current exemption that high schoolers have to middle schoolers, not creating the exemption like this amendment would. I've just kind of seen this as of yesterday, so I haven't been able to review it with stakeholders. And again, they're getting an exemption. That amendment was put on, so it's back down to 2 years. And
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Rosenthal, for what purpose?
does the gentlelady yield for a question?
yes.
The gentlelady yields for a question.
Is this just a form?
It's just a form. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. So again, they could, the exemption could be any free sport, a YMCA, a letter from a YMCA, that would work too. So while I appreciate it, I have to move to table.
Chair recognizes Ms. Flores to close on the amendment.
As always, I'm just trying to make sure that folks that come from less affluent families have the same opportunities that rich kids have. So please, I'd ask for your consideration and ask for your adoption of this amendment. Thank you.
Ms. Flores sends up an amendment. Ms. Hull moves to table the amendment. The question is on the motion to table. If you're in favor, vote no. If you're opposed to the amendment, vote yes. This is a record vote. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Ms. Hull voting aye. Show Ms. Flores voting nay. Show Mr. Turner voting nay. Show Mr. King voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 71 ayes and 56 nays, the motion to table prevails. Following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Turner.
Chair recognizes Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment requires that the middle school and high school courses included in the bill, which I think are a great idea, include the effects of hormones and antibiotics in our food. Hormones and antibiotics in food can have long-term effects on human health, including potential links to hormonal imbalances and other health issues. Meat hormones, especially those used on red meat, have been linked to early puberty in young girls, leading to some young girls beginning menstruation at 8 or 9 years old. And that's 2 years below the average age. Additionally, health experts, including the CDC, have long warned that the overuse of antibiotics in agriculture contribute to antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which is a major health threat. Education is a key prevention strategy, and students deserve to be informed on how the hormones and antibiotics in their food affect their bodies and their natural immunity. This amendment simply requires that the instructional materials used for the required nutrition curriculum in the bill also include information on the effects of hormones and antibiotics used in food products on human health. This is a common sense, science-based update to the curriculum that benefits Texas students, families, and future health care for our state, and I move adoption.
Chair recognizes Ms. Hull to speak in opposition to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I very much agree and appreciate with what Chairman Turner just said. The nutrition curriculum and this bill is about ultra-processed food. So the stuff on the hormones and antibiotics, this is a conversation for a future session. While I agree, I'm going to have to move to table, please.
Chair recognizes Mr. Turner to close on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, again, if the goal is to teach our young people, our school students, about the stuff we put in our bodies, that they put in their bodies, and what's good for you, what's not good for you, this is just a common sense addition to that curriculum to teach about the effects, including the potentially negative effects of foods that contain levels of antibiotics or hormones. That's all the amendment does. So I
Mr. Speaker.
ask that you vote no on the motion to table.
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
Would the gentleman yield for some questions?
Yes.
Gentleman yields for questions.
Thank you. Representative Turner, again, we're dramatically changing what is available to our citizens, what is available, what schools must do, and this is all happening around students, and they're not really given any explanation of exactly why this is all happening and what purpose does it serve. Is that fair?
Well, I think that, I think that this bill does represent a lot of changes to a wide array of aspects of our state, including in education. And my amendments focus specifically on K through 12 and more specifically grades 6 through 8.
Yeah.
That the instructional materials, the curriculum, include this additional information. So when we're talking about foods that whether they're good or they're bad or and what effects they may have on a child's body now and as they grow into adulthood, that curriculum also include information on antibiotics, which we know is an issue in some foods, and hormones, which is an issue in some foods.
And I know the bill author has said that, well, we don't know if we need to do this right now. Let's wait for another session. This bill literally has a requirement that you cannot get a bachelor's degree unless you take an entire semester nutrition class.
That's true.
Right? And we're saying we're going to force college students to take an extra college class required before they can graduate to learn about nutrition, but we can't explain to younger kids why this stuff is happening. I think that's what she's saying.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and I'd have some concerns about the college level requirement in the bill as well. I do think, with respect to younger kids, nutritional instruction makes some sense. I just want it to be complete. And if we're going to do nutritional instruction, introduce a new requirement, a new curriculum for grades 6 through 8, that it be a complete curriculum, as complete as possible. And that's what I think this amendment helps to achieve.
And I know the author said that we should wait till the next session. The bill is already time delayed. The bill does not start for 2 years.
Right.
There's plenty of time for people to figure this out in that time frame.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We don't
I
need
think
to come back.
There's plenty of time for rulemaking and for TEA and SBOE to develop the curriculum on this. So I think there's plenty of time to get it right.
And there's nothing's going to change in the next 2 years. That says that we would have a different opinion about we need to teach kids.
I don't think so. I think this is going to continue. This is a health concern today, and I think it certainly will be years into the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, members. I ask you vote no on the motion to table.
Mr. Turner sends up an amendment. Ms. Hull moves to table. The question is on the motion to table the amendment. A record vote has been requested. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Ms. Hull voting aye. Show Mr. Turner voting nay. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Show Mr. Bojani voting nay. There being 75 ayes and 59 nays, the motion to table prevails. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Bojani.
Chair recognizes Mr. Bojani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm so glad that student health has been a focus of ours this session. We'll help protect our children from harmful social media, encourage schools to regulate cell phone usage, and now we are making sure they eat healthy and exercise. So the idea of this amendment came from my daughter, Raisha Bojani, at the beginning of the session, and y'all may remember that she came during spring break and spoke to many of you in your offices about this idea of having mindfulness as an elective course in school districts that may want to choose it. So it's permissive. It doesn't have any fiscal note on it as well, and so that's what this amendment is about. Anyone who has a teenager or remembers being one knows the stress they are under. And as adults, we know how closely linked mental health is to physical health. If our youth don't learn how to deal with life struggles in a healthy way, it impacts all of us when they become adults and act in unhealthy ways. This amendment would allow schools to have an elective course on mindfulness. For some reason, there is misinformation that this has something to do with religion. This absolutely does not have anything to do with religion. I have never heard of mental health or the generic term mindfulness being linked to a religion. This is science, and there's a lot of research that shows mindfulness techniques in schools can boost cognitive functions, improve academic performance, and reduce disciplinary issues. In short, these practices give students a stronger foundation to learn and grow. Let's ensure healthy minds are included when discussing healthy bodies. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move adoption.
Chair recognizes Ms. Hull to speak in opposition to the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, members, I respectfully have to ask for this to be tabled. This has nothing to do with this bill. It is not germane, and so I just ask that you move to table, please.
Chair recognizes Mr. Bojani to close on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, again, more than 60 of you are joint authors and co-authors on this bill, and that made it out of public education, but was placed or did not get placed on the calendar in time. So I would respectfully urge you to vote yes for this amendment. Thank you. Or vote no for the motion to table. Thank you.
Mr. Bojani sends up an amendment. Ms. Hull moves to table the amendment. The question is on the motion to table. This is a record vote. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Ms. Hull voting aye. Show Mr. Bojani voting nay. Have all members voted? Show Ms. Ward Johnson voting nay. Have all members voted? There being 73 ayes and 57 nays, the motion to table prevails. Please excuse Ms. Please excuse Ms. Y. Davis of Dallas on the motion of Ms. Thompson. Is there any objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Ward Johnson.
Chair recognizes Ms. Ward Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, as a former community college trustee, this one resonated with me. The average price of tuition at Texas Public Higher Education is around $5,200,000. With housing, course materials, and additional institutional fees, the number goes up to around $8,000 or more. For many Texas students and their families, that's a serious financial burden. SB 25, as written, would mandate an additional nutritional course regardless of a student's major career path. While nutrition education is valuable, making it a requirement adds yet another cost and another barrier to graduation. This amendment would make nutritional courses for college students. My amendment would make it optional, not mandatory. This would not remove access to nutritional courses and content. Instead, we are simply saying that students should be allowed to choose the class if it aligns with their goals, with their department goals, with their class goals, with their graduation goals. College is already stressful and demanding experience. Vote for this amendment to stand by your college students. Give them the freedom to choose what's best for their future and ease the financial strain. This class does not bring value to every department. This class does not bring credentials of value. I move adoption. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
would the lady yield for questions?
Yes, I would.
The gentlelady yields for questions.
Representative Ward Johnson, do you know if this bill contains any money for universities in Texas to offer this class?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Would you believe that there is not?
I would believe that there is not. I would say that there was not.
Does this provide any money to students who would be required? Every single baccalaureate student would now be required to take. Is there any money for them to take these extra hours?
No, there's no money for them.
Okay.
They would have to come out of their pockets.
If
to
a
pay for
student
this.
now suddenly has to be in school an extra semester so he can meet this single requirement imposed by this law, does anything in this bill provide additional funding for that student to be in school another semester?
No, it does not. As a matter of fact, a lot of parents are going to have to come out of their pockets. So a lot of you that pay for your kids to go to school, this will impact you.
There's nothing in the bill that says that a student, like a student wouldn't have to pay for this, right? There's nothing that says that the schools can't charge for this,
Right, nothing.
right? And there's nothing in this bill that says that the schools will be made whole if they offer this class for free.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
Nothing.
And if a student says, look, I've done everything, I've completed all my hours, and you guys just dropped this on me, there's no exception for them,
No exception.
right? Even if it's a
Correct.
student that says, I'm already going into med school, I'm already going into a health field, I'm going to take like nutrition classes out the wazoo, they would not be exempted from this.
No, they would not.
And even if a student was in like a near health program, that they were in a science where nutrition was already an elective of some kind, they would not be exempted from this.
No, they would not.
This is adding an incredible, massive mandate to our schools and to our students, isn't it?
I absolutely agree. I was a technology major, and this class would have done nothing for me.
And your amendment would take a shall, a must, to a may, correct?
Correct.
I think this is a very sensible amendment that should be supported by everyone.
Thank you. I move adoption.
Chair recognizes Ms. Hull to speak against the amendment. Or, excuse me, backup members. Chair recognizes Ms. Hull to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, members, the bill is not prescriptive in how the schools must implement this. So, no one in the higher ed community has come to speak about this as a concern at all, and it has been in the bill since March 5th. So, the bill is not prescriptive into what this course of instruction in nutrition will look like. This is also going to go through rigorous rulemaking at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So there is nothing in this bill that says that they have to pay for an additional class. That is not at all the intention. And again, no one in the higher ed community has raised a single concern. They can simply incorporate any sort of nutrition curriculum into already existing classes. So no one is required to pay for an additional class.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Wu, for what purpose?
would the lady yield?
Yes.
Gentlelady yields for questions.
Representative Hull, does your bill say that it only needs to have components of it in other classes?
No, it is not prescriptive. And
But-
so the rulemaking, again, that is sorry.
In fact, on page 4, starting on line 10 through 17, is that requirement. It actually says that the THDCB, by rule, shall require institutions of higher education to require each student enrolled in an associate or baccalaureate degree program at the institution to complete a course of instruction. It doesn't say learn the ideas, it says it must complete a course, does it not?
Yes, again, that curriculum can be incorporated into any course where they believe that it would fit.
Does your bill say what you just said?
No, the whole point of it, and again, if you keep going, part of it is those guidelines, but there's further on, I'd have to find on the exact page, all of the rulemaking.
And again, Representative Hull, you're telling me that read between the lines. Me, as an attorney, reading the lines, this direction is complete. It says you must complete a course, and the course must have things provided by the Texas Nutrition Advisory Committee. established under this law. It does not say that it can be included in other classes. It does not say that other classes could suffice for it. It does not say that you're exempted from it because if you've taken these things, or it has these things in your course load, or if you're in this major. It just says that every single student who is seeking an associate's degree or a baccalaureate degree must take a course of instruction in nutritional education. If I was a school reading this, this is black and white. It says you must create a course that they must now take.
It doesn't say that they have to create a course. And again, with the rulemaking, that all of that is part of that process. And I go back to, this has been in the bill since March 5th, and not a single person in the higher ed community has had a concern about this section of the bill.
And again, Representative Hall, I'm not sure why people have to tell you something is bad when we're telling you something is bad.
Because I don't believe that it is.
You don't think requiring every single college student, these are adults, these are adults over 18, these are grown adults. You're telling them they must take this course for their own benefit or they will not graduate.
Again, it can be within a course that already exists. That's
even worse.
It is the new
If they
part
already
of the
have
instruction.
a nutritional program, that is a complete class, and you say you have to take this complete 3-hour class, that's even worse.
I am not saying that they have to take a new class.
But your law does. Your
No,
bill does.
it does not.
Your bill says must complete a course of instruction. What is
Yes.
a course?
And again, they can implement it, like I just said, where they are incorporating this curriculum into already existing classes.
And I'm telling you again that your bill does not say that. You should
Yes,
add
it
that
is
into
not.
your bill.
It is not prescriptive at all. Correct. It is not prescriptive.
How is it not prescriptive?
leading-
It says point blank what they must do. Like the word must and shall appears over 50 times in this bill. There is no may anywhere in this bill. Everything in this bill is a must or a shall.
Yes, they have to take a course that at least incorporates this curriculum. Correct. The curriculum has to be incorporated into a course that would make sense. All of this is done by rulemaking, which is talked about in the bill.
Where does the word incorporate show up on page 4?
Again, with all of the discussions with everyone within the higher ed community, that has been the discussion. And there has been, the concerns that you are raising today have never been talked about. That no one has been worried about a new course and kids having to pay for a new course. That is not how anyone has believed that the bill is implemented.
Who pays for it then?
The chair will remind the members that we are on the amendment.
We're talking about the amendment.
Who pays for what?
Who pays for this course?
Again, it would be a course that they would already take.
What if they don't have a course that they already take that has this component?
There's a lot of core curriculum core classes that they have to take that could easily, a lot of the different science classes, there's a lot of different things that can incorporate nutrition education.
And again, Representative Hall, the reason I keep asking you, where do you see the word incorporate, right? There's a reason for that, because you can say on the floor, again, you can say it's your legislative intent, but by the way, we passed HB 113 that says legislative intent doesn't matter anymore. So the only thing courts can go on is the black letter law that you have provided. The black letter law says they must take a complete course, right? That has the curriculum required. It doesn't say you can incorporate it, you can add it into other stuff. Your bill does not say that. And I know you say it's prescriptive. That's what prescriptive means. It's prescribing what you must do.
I am, again, sharing with you all of the conversations that have been on this bill about what that does. I cannot make changes to that without going back and having further conversations with higher ed community to figure out how that would change that. I can't do it.
We've just put a half a dozen amendments on. We're changing stuff right now. Why can't you change it right now?
A lot of these other things in the amendment that I put on had been discussed for weeks and weeks. So I cannot make changes to the bill, a significant change, without talking to the stakeholders that it would affect.
We've
I
made
can't do
significant
that.
changes today already.
Again, those changes had already been talked about and discussed. I cannot make a significant change without knowing exactly how it would affect how everything plays out. I can't do that.
So I'll tell you the easy way to look at this. If you take that provision of the bill and take it from a shall to a may, it would take the burden off
then
of
they wouldn't do
it would
it.
take the burden off of every college student in this state.
Then they wouldn't do it. And it's Texas Public Schools. Okay. I move to table.
The chair recognizes Ms. Ward Johnson to close on her amendment.
Members, thank you. Well, I do have respect for the author and the sponsor of this bill. I was a former community college trustee, and I understand the burdens of degree plans and the cost associated with this. And this bill currently would make it mandatory to take this class, which would cause an extra burden for someone that does not need it to reach their degree plan or their graduation. So I will respectfully ask for you not to table this. If you care about the value of what your kids are learning, thank you.
Ms. Ward Johnson sends up an amendment. Ms. Hull moves to table the amendment. The question is on the motion to table. This is a record vote. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Ms. Hull voting aye. Show Ms. Ward Johnson voting no. Show Ms. Collier voting no. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Show Mr. Latterback voting aye. Have all members voted? There being 67 ayes and 70 nays, the motion to table fails. Is there anyone wishing to speak on, for, or against the bill? Is there anyone wishing to speak on, for, or against the amendment? Anyone wishing to speak on, for, or against the amendment by Ms. Ward Johnson, please come down.
Does anyone want to speak? What does Ms. Hull want to do? She needs to come.
The chair recognizes Mr. Wu to speak in favor of the amendment.
Members, look carefully at the fiscal note on this bill, right? The fiscal note, in my opinion, is very incomplete because you have a provision here that says every university must, by law, create a program or a program like it that is sufficient. Not only that, there is nothing in this bill. There is zero in this bill that provides them with funding. There is zero in this bill that says their funding will be protected when they create this. And worst of all, I love a little government overreach, but even this is too much. This is telling grown adult people people in universities, in college already, what's good for them. You can advise people to take a class, you can tell people they should be healthy, but to say that you cannot graduate because you didn't take a health course because we thought it would be good for you. I love if people would be healthier. I would love for more people to exercise, to eat better. I would love for people to eat fewer processed foods and have salty snacks and have too much sugar. But I don't want to hold a gun to people's heads and make them do it. That seems counter to everything that we've said we care about in Texas. That we try to let grown adults make their own decisions. We can recommend that these classes be taken. We can tell schools you should make them available if people want them. But to say that you cannot graduate, to say your child will not be able to earn their degree because, well, we want them to do a little better. And I know Ms. Hull wants to play with the words that are on this bill, but you can read it yourself on page 4. It doesn't say that you could swap out other stuff. It doesn't say that you can make stuff fit because that language doesn't exist. Our legislation, our laws don't work by what you think about and how you feel about them. They work by what's on the paper. Look at what's on the paper. It says point blank, they must complete a course. Does not say that you can substitute. Does not say you can satisfy it with other criteria. It says you must complete this course, and there's no limitation on how long this course could be. This could be a 1-hour course, or it could be a 6-hour course. It doesn't say. There's no limitation. There's no guidance. All it says is you must complete this course. I urge you to vote on this amendment. You can still accept the rest of the bill, but we don't have to make this bill so onerous on every Texan who's going to attend school or their families.
Chair recognizes Ms. Ward Johnson to close on the amendment.
I move adoption. Oh, members, the amendment is now acceptable to the author. I move adoption.
Ms. Ward Johnson sends up an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author. However, a record vote has been requested. Vote aye, vote nay. The clerk will ring the bell. Have all members voted? Show Ms. Hull voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 114 ayes and 25 nays, the amendment is adopted. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.